I think so. I think the United States Congress had to serve notice that this behavior, even though it's coming at the end of his term, needed a permanent historic mark. And I think they made the right decision.
One congressman told of fears of his Republican colleagues that voting for impeachment could endanger his life. Does that sound like a kind of terrorism to you?
It does, but I don't believe it. I think that's a coward's way out of a hard vote. There are always crazy people in a position to threaten government officials. I've lived with it for a long time. That's no excuse for doing your job.
Do you believe that Donald Trump has to be removed from office before inauguration?
I think it would be good for our country if he were, because it would send a signal that this is absolutely beyond the pale, unacceptable behavior by any American leader.
What would be your message to Donald Trump right now if you could speak directly to him?
I don't think I would actually waste my breath since we're talking about a lawless nihilist. But if I had to deliver him a message, I would say there's no way out of this for you except to accept the judgment of the nation and leave the stage and allow this nation to try to heal.
We're now a week on from those scenes of mayhem, violence on the Capitol. Several lives were lost. What do you make of what you saw?
I was sickened, as I hope not just all Americans, but all human beings were, by an attack on a symbol of democracy, the center of democracy for our country, and a symbol, I hope, for the whole world. And I was also angered as a former law enforcement official. For the life of me, I can't understand why that hill was not adequately defended. I think it's going to be very important for our country to take a look back, as we did after 9/11, and understand what happened and why, so it never happens again.
Well, you famously led the FBI, and the question many are asking this time is, where were they? They must have known what was going on. They must have infiltrated those groups. They must have seen what was planned. What went wrong? How can the director, Christopher Wray, still be in place?
Those questions can't be answered yet. Those are the right questions to ask, but you need to do a much deeper dive and a much more careful, thoughtful gathering of information to understand. So what did they do? What did they do with what they knew? Who acted on that information? It just can't be judged from this vantage point, but it should be judged.
It's kind of late in the day, I guess, to be, deep diving on this, because some will be concerned that for 4 years, the key institutions of America have been scared of upsetting a fragile president. Do you share those concerns?
This is just speculation, but I think the FBI director who followed me has been very careful to maintain a lower profile so that he doesn't get fired by an erratic president and have the FBI decapitated at a critical time in our nation. I bet he's thinking that right now this week. It's important not to let the eye of Sauron fall on you and have the FBI director fired.
The FBI, we know, has warned of the possibility of further riots, further action by militias. We know of foiled pipe bomb attacks. What is your fear for the coming days? Are you worried about inauguration?
I'm worried that there are serious threats, but I also know, because I've been involved in securing 2 inaugurations, that this, for American security services, is the Super Bowl of security. We know how to secure, to completely lock down a large piece of ground, and I'm confident that will be done. But at the same time, I know the threat is real.
Do you believe that the MAGA movement itself is becoming synonymous with a conspiracy-led extremism threat?
There's a reason the American people associate the red hats with something racist and that they should be fearful of. It's probably an exaggeration because there's so many millions of Americans who are not violent people. They're not racist people. They've just been people who've been fooled.
Would you see it as a domestic terror threat now?
Oh, definitely. I'm not talking about the MAGA movement as a whole, but significant aspects of, and you saw it live and on television at Capitol Hill, significant aspects of those people who consider themselves devotees of Donald Trump are people that I would classify as domestic terrorists.
In your book, you've written that Donald Trump shouldn't face prosecution. I know it was penned earlier in the autumn. Do you still believe that?
I still think that on balance, the best decision for the United States of America will be not to grant Donald Trump the platform that prosecuting him would give him for every day for 3 or 4 years in the nation's capital as United States versus Trump appeared on television every day. I think the better thing for our country and our new president is to push Donald Trump to the side a bit. I'd rather the TV lights go out and he stand on the lawn at Mar-a-Lago shouting at cars in his bathrobe where none of us can hear that.
It is an odd position, isn't it, for a federal prosecutor? I mean, you've built your career on doing the right thing in the name of justice and being transparent and showing, more importantly, that actions have consequences. So if the appearance of fairness matters, if we arrest drug dealers and shopkeepers, why wouldn't you extend that same sense of the appearance of fairness?
Look, I know it's an odd thing for me to say, given my career and given that the guy's been saying I should be in jail for the last 4 years, but I'm trying to make a judgment about what's best for the country. I obviously think he belongs in jail, but I don't think pursuing that is in the best interest of the entire nation.
Do you think Joe Biden should pardon Trump as Ford did Nixon?
I don't know. He should consider it. Now, I don't know whether Donald Trump, he's not a genius, but he might figure out that if he accepts a pardon, that's an admission of guilt, the United States Supreme Court has said. So I don't know that he would accept a pardon, but as part of healing the country and getting us to a place where we can focus on things that are going to matter over the next 4 years, I think Joe Biden's going to have to at least think about that.
There's a lot of talk of Donald Trump attempting to pardon himself. Does he open himself up to more litigation, more prosecution if he does that?
Yeah, that would be an unusually dumb thing even for him to do, because it's unsettled as to whether a president can do that. I believe a president can't. It would be a lawless act. It would prompt the Department of Justice to have to prosecute him so that they could litigate this question about whether that's an effective release from criminal liability. So in a way, by trying to give himself a shield, he would be inviting the sword of the Department of Justice.
What about those who've enabled the false narrative this time round? Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, senators who've pushed to overturn the election result. Do you believe they're guilty of attempted insurrection? Would you suggest they should be removed from office?
I can't offer an opinion on whether they're legally responsible, because that's a technical question, but they're morally responsible. They lit a fire in a crowded building knowing exactly what they were doing. And now they're standing outside saying they were shocked that people ran from the building and got hurt by the flames.
How would you answer House Republicans who say the whole impeachment process is just political and unnecessarily divisive at this time?
Someone who says that is really not worthy of a response.
James Comey, last time we spoke about the 2016 election, the part you may have played inadvertently in bringing Donald Trump to power, when you told the public you were reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails 9 days before the election, I remember you said to me you had to choose between a bad decision and a disastrous one. You hoped you'd made the least bad choice. When you look at where we are today, do you honestly still believe that?
I do. It makes it all the more a painful decision, but even if I could travel back in time, you can't have the FBI director making decisions based on who he thinks should be president. You just can't. That's the road to ruin. And so you're right, it was between bad and disastrous, and I would love never to have been involved, but having been involved, we had to choose the choice that we chose.
Do you think that history students will come to see this as a moment when the democratic institutions of America held up under enormous pressure, or will they say, gosh, they came perilously close to collapse?
I think they will say this was the greatest stress test of American institutions probably since the American Civil War, and they held. The judiciary held, Congress held, the media held, civil society held. Donald Trump was not able to bend them to the breaking point. Now, he bent them significantly, which is why it's a little bit of both. The Republican Party acted in a way that should stain it forever, and certain aspects, parts of the American media acted in a shameful way. But in the main, the institutions that make America, America held.
Do you think the Republican Party will hold?
I don't know. I hope not. I hope it either goes away entirely or it splits and Trumpism is pushed to a darker corner of American life, and principled patriots who people on the Democratic side may disagree with fiercely, with people of integrity, rebuild that party.
James Comey, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.